Doctors warn against irreversible Zepbound side effects on today's episode. Hi friends, I'm Elizabeth, Countess of Shopping. I've lost over 108 pounds in the last 2+ years of being on Zepbound, Mounjaro, and TIRZEPATIDE compound. The combination of those, not at the same time, is because of shortages. In today's episode, there is an article that has been picking up smoke, and I want to quench that fire, honey. I want to put that fire out and take out the smoke of it. It's talking about, and we're going to deep dive into this article and pick it apart. One of the things in this article is this is representative of a pixel in a picture, like one dot within a picture. So here's the one dot in the picture. If you pull that all the way out, that is very different than a whole picture's worth. So in this article I'm going to reference and talk about, it is very much a henny penny, the sky is falling article about irreversible Zepbound side effects. And quite frankly, it's shoddy journalism, and I'm going to talk about this particular source on it, of it's one pixel of the whole picture. And when you see the whole picture, you're like, oh, okay, it's not so bad. But if you saw this article, which many of you have, it's picking up smoke, it's picking up steam, and I'm here to kind of put that fire out, honey. I'm dousing some water on that with factually based and factually backed evidence about bone density and osteoporosis. So this article is going in, and it's based on the Royal Osteoporosis Society, the ROS. And over in the UK, I think our UK friends are getting some of this steam, this full-on full court press against Eli Lilly Zepbound that people here in the US necessarily were getting it, but not quite like this. When I saw this, I was like, people are going to think this is true. And part of it is true, but it's not the whole picture about bone density and how that can relate to osteoporosis with your bones. This is going to be a two-part series. So I have this video today, and then we're going to have another video coming out talking about an upcoming drug that is also relevant with this too, which is fascinating. But more so on this video, I want to talk about there is a risk of, well, not risk, muscle mass loss happens with any kind of big weight loss, whether it's bariatric surgery, whether it's keto, Atkins, Weight Watchers, any sort of substantial weight loss, you're going to have muscle mass loss. Because here's the deal. When morbidly obese, being over 300 pounds, of course I'm going to have more muscle on my frame. Like if you think about it with common sense, of course that just carrying that extra weight is going to make more muscle. I don't know about you, but I've tried the trend of weighted vests. I've tried 2 of them, and it's not worked out super well for me. But it made me realize how much weight I had been carrying with that weighted vest before my weight loss. And of course, I'm going to have more muscle with being a 300-pound frame versus now what I am being very close to a healthy weight with my frame. It's very, very different. And so I want to encourage you when thinking about muscle mass loss that it happens with any sort of weight loss. But that doesn't mean we need to discount that. The other thing that I feel like is so incredibly important for my journey, I'm not a doctor, simply my experience, strength, and hope over losing over 108 pounds the last 2+ years, over 115 Zepbound and Mounjaro and TIRZEPATIDE compound injections. And on this journey of losing weight, substantial amount of weight, and also keeping it off now and having it for over 2 years. I mean, that's a long time, honey. That is a long time. That I couldn't handle talking about muscle mass loss or weight training in conjunction. It was all that I could do at the beginning of my journey, being morbidly obese, to just focus in on, okay, that's what my body feels like when it's full. Okay, that's what my body feels like when it's hungry. My body's giving me signals all day if I choose to listen to it. That is what, like, being morbidly obese, there has been an unhealthy perspective with food, and untangling that has taken me some time. And so this is what I want to share with you first. Before we deep dive into this muscle mass conversation, going back to our bones and going back to osteoporosis, I want to say that turtles win. I am a turtle. And turtles win. If you are slower, I am not one of the fastest people out there. But here's what I know. I've read the end of the book. Turtles win. And that I now do lift a ton. I'm so excited tonight. I'm going to be lifting a bunch but I could not focus in on lifting weights until into after my first year. And even then, it has been a massive progression this last year of really focusing in on, it's been a complete evolution for my weight training. So I want to give this first disclaimer. We're not talking about if you're just starting Zepbound, or even for me going back to my first 11 months, it was after the first year. So if you're 6 months into Zepbound or 8 months into Zepbound, I want to encourage you of knowing when to push and knowing when to pull. And that's a conversation for you to have with your healthcare provider too. For me, it was advised to focus in on food and my perspective with food, in healing that perspective with food, that was going to help me more in terms of like attention. There's only but so much in terms of healing, to focus in on the food component. And for me, that has fared so much better than like deep diving into weight training, of where I was worried I was going to hurt myself being over 300 pounds and then 250 pounds and then under 200 pounds. And like, I was worried I was going to hurt myself. And so I want to encourage you, if this is where you are in your Zepbound journey, and by the way, if you share this with your GLP-1 bestie and you're on semaglutide or Wegovy or Ozempic or whatever, Mounjaro, all are welcome at the Countess of Shopping table. I want to let you know that that's also okay. However, one of the best things that I did was I work with Join Fridays. They are a telehealth company. They're the industry leaders in obesity, and I love them so much. I get my Zepbound through them, but as a new patient, you can't get brand names through them. Unless you've been an existing patient. But they are awesome. And because they have all-encompassing health in terms of obesity management. So you can get GLP-1 through them, or GLP-1 plus GIP with the 2 hormone receptors on there. I love Join Fridays because it has group included in the price of getting the GLP-1 or GIP-1. You can get group coaching for diet with a dietitian. How helpful that has been for me. Huge, 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 huge. So I want to encourage you, if you're looking to switch over, if you're on a compound or if your insurance is switching and you're looking for a GLP-1 or GLP-1 plus GIP, the 2 hormone receptor, use the discount code QUEEN with Join Fridays, QUEEN. You can see all of their pricing on Join Fridays' website and all of that. You enter the code in at the very end. People are like, where's the code? It's at like the very, very last thing right now, is the way that the website is laid out. But you can see all the pricing in advance. You can see everything that's included: movement, coaching, dietitian coaching. It's awesome in terms of these group coaching things for figuring out this stuff. If you're early on, or if you're like somebody like me who's been on for over 2 years now, having that perspective has been so valuable. And the fact that it's like all encompassing together with getting my medication is huge. So I want to encourage you, that would be my first stop. Go check out Join Fridays. If you're switching over or if you're just starting, Join Fridays I've worked with them since October 2023. Back when people said I had 5 heads for taking GLP-1 medication. It's worked out pretty well for me since. Number 2. Muscle mass loss happens, like I said earlier, with any kind of weight loss. And in this article, and I'm going to link it down below, it makes me, you guys know I have to cite my sources, and how you access all of the links I'm talking about in today's show. Click the more button and then click the ... more button again. It's 2 hyperlinks on there. YouTube's changed around I've got all these free links for you for stuff. I'm going to cite my source because I demand and require of myself to be factually accurate, but I don't want you going to this website. It's from ladbible.com. And this article's garbage because it's inflammatory, it's henny penny, and it's scaring you. And it's not helpful. And it's one piece, in my humble opinion, one piece of the pixel of the whole picture. Yes, there is risk, and it's saying irreversible risk in this article, with getting osteoporosis because of muscle mass loss, because of GLP-1 weight loss. And so that is true, comma, there's way more to that story though. And so it really burns my grits, and I am fired up, honey, about the Royal Osteoporosis Society, ROS. Shame on you. Like, they give this whole problem but no solution, and to back this up about osteoporosis, talking about things that we can actually do to help. So the nurse manager at ROS, an osteoporosis specialist nurse, I want to make sure I'm giving them the fair equal say, and then I'm going to launch into my own solutions. The things that we actually really do need to know that have worked well for me, so you can talk to your healthcare provider about them, because it's never medical advice. It's long been recognized that extreme and rapid weight loss can impact negatively on bone and muscle mass. This is a risk regardless which way weight is lost. We are unaware of any other mechanism other than weight loss via which GLP-1s may impact negatively on the bone. It is important to remember that there are also many health risks associated with obesity, including osteoporosis. Balance is required. And so it's going in talking about a well-balanced calcium and protein-rich diet is particularly important for bones, vital to stay active and incorporate regular exercise. And so it talks about ros.org.uk. Like I said, the UK seems to be getting more of these crazy articles than it does the US. In this article, it talks about this singer named Avery who's suffering from a debilitating disease after a year of taking Ozempic. And so it's going in talking about this muscle mass issue with osteoporosis. Yes, we need to be aware of that, but also reframing from the get-go the 1-2 punch to fight back at muscle mass loss. And I go back to the original intent, because intent matters. Me being over 300 pounds, of course I'm not going to carry that same amount of muscle as I did at 200 pounds, 300 pounds, 200 pounds, and now in the 100 poundish range. I'm in under 200 pounds, in the 100 poundish range. It's not going to be the same. And so making it seem like it should be the same is just bad news reporting. That's just simply not true. But we can do certain things to help with our muscle mass loss. And if you don't know, right, muscle mass loss, it's the muscle around our bones. I had the privilege of going to this neat dinner party, and everybody at the dinner party was a doctor except me. And I'm like, yoo-hoo, I'm a YouTuber over here, video marketing specialist, yoo-hoo. So I got the privilege to ask all of these amazing doctors a ton of questions. I wanted to be like, I felt like Jennifer Flowers, like talking to my flower. Let me you know what I mean? I would never do that, but it half joking, but literally I was like, I kind of want to can I interview you here right on the spot? Talking about how, and what they explained to me was the muscle is going around our bones and we need that to help with a stable structure, kind of like a pier. If you're going to the ocean and you want to go fishing on the pier and they have at the Outer Banks, these pier things in there that are strong and stable in there. How you make it more stable is with the muscle around the bone to protect the bone. And again, I'm not medical at all, so talk to your healthcare provider on this. But in my non-medical way of how I look at this, it's helping to protect the bone with that muscle around it. And so that is for helping protect me because I want to be able, when I go on an airplane, to lift my suitcase, my own suitcase, look at that muscle, into the overhead bin without asking for help. I want to, when I have grandchildren, right now my kid's 9.5, so that's grandchildren, God willing, are a long ways away, but to be able to lift them. And so doing some of these exercises in which I'm doing in terms of lifting, for me, I want to have the lifestyle associated with that to protect my bones because I joke when I say this, but it's true. I don't want to sneeze and break a hip, okay? And so how we protect that is in these solutions. One is through lifting. Now, I told you that I am a turtle. Lifting did not come easily to me. It took me over a year to even start. And then when I started to lift, it was wall Pilates for seniors. Mind you, I'm in my 40s. And I loved it. It was here on YouTube. The lady had blue leggings on with a saddle shoe on. That was who I used. And I loved it. Free. In my free encouragement group, we have talked, which by the way, if you've not joined my free beta group, it's linked in the description link below. That group is replacing the private Facebook group because Facebook is shutting down all these private GLP-1 groups. That's why we have the beta, it's called Beta Private Encouragement Group. It is awesome. But we've been talking about different lifting ways. For me, starting off with senior wall Pilates was the first way. Then that evolved into me going to Pilates classes in person, which then evolved into me getting a lifting coach, which then evolved to me now of where I'm doing these lifting sequences. And it's so cool. I'm using Shaun T's, it's on Beachbody, and I like Beachbody. I don't have any discount codes with them, but I like Beachbody because they have beginners, and then they have, my husband does the 30-minute P90X. I do Shaun T's. They're 40 to 15-minute workouts for lifting. I just do it for 30 minutes. They have 6 routines, and I do 4 of the 6. To give context, because I'm going to do what I can do and what I'm able to do. And so in terms of this lifting, if you can't lift yet, and you're not to this point, great. What I did was literally just focusing on tunnel vision on the food of what does my body feel like when it's full? What does my body feel like when it's hungry? What does my body feel like when it's hungry when I'm at a party? What does my body feel like when it's hungry when I'm with my kid? What does my body feel like when I'm on a hot date with my husband? What does my body feel like during Christmas and holidays? And like all of these life events over a full year really taught me the lesson of untangling this unhealthy perspective with food, which I now believe my perspective with food is so much healthier. I still have a little ways to go, but for the most part, I can track my food without getting triggered. There's a lot of things that are much healthier with my food perspective. And so lifting is number one to combat that muscle mass loss. But if you're not there yet, for me, the first year I just walked my dogs. If you've seen Fred and Wilma, just walk my dogs and focusing on that and getting to the point of walking 2 to 6 miles per day. That is thrilling for me. Thrilling because I could not do that when I was morbidly obese. It just was not my reality to be able to do that. And so if you're in the same boat as me, great, you'll win. Turtles win. Turtles do win. You're trying, and I think that that's the most important thing of this is not a tortoise and the hare race. It's not the hare racing ahead. Of if you're making incremental 1% improvement each day, eventually you're going to get to this really amazing point and look back and be like, woohoo! So number one, checking with the dietitian. I love the group coaching with Join Fridays. If you're looking to switch over, they're great. Number two, lifting, figuring out how to lift. If you're not there yet in terms of lifting, for me, going back to what the dietitian said, was weaving in more protein and more collagen. And how I structure my days is what protein am I going to have today, and then loop around my food with that. So today we got some amazing sandwiches from Wegmans, and I normally don't eat deli meat, but I was having a craving for roast beef. And so literally that was my lunch, was roast beef, like this roast beef sandwich with a little bit of ham on there, some cheese, some delicious thinly sliced sourdough bread that we got that was freshly made, a little bit of cheese on there as well. And so focusing in on protein, collagen, and then the calcium component for our bones, which is why I had a little bit of cheese on there too. But protein focus. For me, having protein, I will link down below a ton of my favorite protein shakes. I found for me, I could not eat as much protein with real food without needing supplementation from protein shakes. I don't know why I was so against it, but I was against it when I first started. But I realized if I'm eating shrimp, for example, for my protein, that's a lot of shrimp to get to 20 grams of protein. I'd rather just have a protein shake. And that has fared really, really well for me. So I will link, and I have discount codes for all of them. I also have special collagen drinks that I love, that taste great, that easily have fit into my active, busy lifestyle to make this sustainable and long-term. So protein, collagen, calcium focused on there. And calcium focus, I've more so much focused in on the protein component of it, but now it's moving into that as well of making sure, am I having enough calcium? But y'all, that's like protein and nutrient dense foods with fruits, vegetables as well, because that constipation is real. That constipation is real, but learning that's why those group dietitian coaching things were so helpful. So I at least had a basis to learn. Next, one of the other things that I like to reframe with is if I had stayed morbidly obese. It was awful being morbidly obese. Like, it was awful. I remember just sitting there being like, this is my life. Like, this is my life now. I had kind of given up. And until GLP-1 medication came out, I had no hope. I knew my next step probably was going to get bariatric surgery, but that scared the dickens out of me because I knew so many people gained the weight back. And I was really scared. And so going through my mind of what the diseases are with obesity, like cancers, a ton of cancers are correlated with morbid obesity and obesity, type 2 diabetes. There's a ton of gnarly diseases that happen as a result of obesity. And watching my grandmother get her leg partially hacked off because of obesity-related disease, I knew that that was kind of what was coming for me in an early grave. And that terrified me. I mean, I'm a mom to a 9.5-year-old. I'm like, am I going to make it to his high school graduation? Am I going to make it to like his wedding? Like, am I going to make it? Probably not. And like, that gutted me. And knowing so badly, I didn't want this, but also I didn't know how to stop it until Mounjaro came out and Zepbound and all the other GLP-1, Ozempic and Wegovy and all of that. I didn't know how to like stop. And then learning about obesity as a disease and that GLP-1s can help. I'm on Zepbound that has GLP-1 and GIP-1 in there. It's the 2 hormone receptors. How helpful that is to being able to then work on these food changes, to then be able to work out, to then be able to do those things. But literally the obesity was stopping me from doing that because it was a little hormone issue with GLP-1 deficiency. And so learning these things, when I first started, I was ready to take the side effects of Zepbound and Mounjaro. There was no such thing as Zepbound when I started, which is why I'm saying Mounjaro. They're the same thing, just 2 different FDA approvals, but they're the same thing. There was no Zepbound when I started. But when I started with Mounjaro, I was willing to take having 5 heads to risk potentially not being obese. And it was a very good calculated risk. It worked out for me. And then now, hopefully, God willing, prevents all these cancers and strokes and heart, like all this stuff of that we know that obesity does. I'd rather go down this path of, yes, there is a risk for me with osteoporosis. If we look at the 1 pixel, because of muscle mass loss, there is that risk. But I am doing the 1-2 punch to fight back, to fight back against osteoporosis and with muscle mass loss. But again, I wasn't supposed to have that same muscle that I had when I was over 300 pounds. That doesn't make any logical sense. It makes sense that my muscle is going to change and morph as I continue to not be 300 pounds, not be 200 pounds, and be in the 100-ish pound range. Of course, my muscle is going to change on that. But of course, as Jim Rohn says, of course. So going back over to the point that I'm trying to make, which was point number 4, I'll take the potential other risk of having osteoporosis to circumvent not having all these other types of cancers and obesity related diseases, which is a ton. Look at that muscle. That's from lifting, right? The power. And by the way, one of the things I don't think people talk about a lot with lifting is the confidence. Esteemable acts build esteem. And lifting for me is evidence stacking that I am strong. For so long, being morbidly obese, it was like, I am weak, my body's trash, like negative, yucky self-talk. That's not true. That's simply not true, because I have the evidence to back that I actually am strong, that I actually can lift weights, that I actually can, like, I can do these things. Woo! And you can too, my friends. Like you can too. You can, we all, like, that's the cool part about this. But for me, it's little incremental changes. It doesn't have, don't pole vault over a mouse turd, honey. Just make it little incremental paces forward. Start with wall Pilates for seniors and then see how that feels, or whatever is akin to your wall Pilates. Someone messaged me, and I love this so much. They're talking about archery. They're excited to get back into archery, and they couldn't do archery because they got so obese. And so now they're back to doing it. Someone else talked about tap dancing for them. So whatever it is for you to get you back in the physical activity game, do it. For me, it was dog walking. I love dog walking. I love it. Makes me happy. I love my dogs. Which, by the way, I don't know if I told you, from Duke's lemonade stand, he raised over $150 himself, and from some of y'all's donations too, which I need to write thank you notes if you donated money to him. Thank you. We sent that off to the local animal shelter, so thank you. It was over $150. Like, we can work on these things, and not to let these headlines from like LAD Bible freak us out. I think there's things that we do need to know about, but also not getting caught up in this whole henny penny, the sky is falling, irreversible side effect, Zepbound side effect. It can be. And they quote in here, I feel really badly for the person in this article who's quoted, she's a singer named Avery. I feel badly for her from the debilitating disease. But also, did you not talk to your healthcare provider? Like, this is where I'm like, what did your healthcare provider say to you? Like, that was one thing that my healthcare provider has very much been talking to me about in terms of other side effects and what I need to be doing for the next step, right? Like, step by step by step. I had a friend, she's an awesome girlfriend. She's not with Join Fridays, she's here locally, but I'm like, why don't you join Fridays? But I actually really did like her healthcare provider when she was explaining it to me. Her healthcare provider would not dose her up until she started lifting, because she had been on it for so long. And her healthcare provider's like, I'm not giving you a higher dose. Your solution is working out and lifting. until you come back to this office and tell me that you're lifting, you're not going on a higher dose. And I thought, gosh, what a good healthcare provider. Like I was like, rock on with your bad self. I thought that was pretty cool. So to make her get into lifting, because it had been enough time. It wasn't like it was, you know what I mean? Like she had learned about side effects. She had learned, like she was ready. It was like Mr. Miyagi from Karate Kid. She was ready for the next layer. So I hope this video has been helpful for you. I'm going to be doing a part 2 on this, talking about now a medication that is coming out that is fascinating in correlation to muscle mass loss. That will be in the next video, which I'm pumped about. I want to make sure our emoji of the day today is going to be an umbrella, and I do emojis of the day to get to know you better because I care. And we're doing umbrella because we're not going to let people rain on our parade, our weight loss parade. I will also, the side note of those emojis of the day is I will pray over you. If you don't believe in prayer, I'll uplift you in positive thought because all are welcome at the Countess of Shopping table. Your question of the day is, what are you doing today to move you closer to your goals? And tell me in the comments below. And if you want to switch over to Join Fridays, use the discount code QUEEN, QUEEN, at the very end for extra savings too. I love you guys. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others. I'm Countess of Shopping. Count my blessings because life is delicious. Go see part 2. It will be out tomorrow. If you're watching this the day that this gets released, check in tomorrow to go see the part 2 follow-up on the medication component, which is fascinating. Okay, love you. Bye, guys.